So I think probably my earliest memory of Weird Al is buying the Dare to Be Stupid cassette from Licorice Pizza, which I still have, and recording the complete Al off of cable and watching it over and over again. And I was about 6 years old when both of those things took place. And I remained a Weird Al fan my entire life. I introduced my son to Weird Al, and then he ended up becoming an even bigger Al fan than I ever was. We got my wife into it, and now it's something that we get to do as a family, and it's just really awesome. And because of this, my son's favorite movie is the 1989 Weird Al film, UHF. And he's been bugging me to take him to see the filming locations for probably the last 4 or 5 years. And so I finally decided to break down and do it. I figured with 2024 being the 35th anniversary of UHF, what better time to make the drive to Oklahoma? That's right, we're finally making the long drive to Tulsa. Are you excited? You better be. But before we take that journey, we've actually got a couple of locations to check out right here in Los Angeles. So don't change the channel and don't touch that dial, because today we're checking out UHF. So let's go see what we can find. So the movie begins with Al's character, George Newman, having one of his many fantasies. Now this one in particular is an Indiana Jones style fantasy. This building right here behind me in the 80s and 90s, this was Introvision, a special effects company. And it was right here inside of this building where they built the sets for that Indiana Jones fantasy. Most of the sets were miniatures and they added Al in later. Now, by coincidence, about 5 or 6 years ago, my son and I came to a photo shoot in this very same building with Weird Al. I mean, talk about coincidence. It makes my head want to spin. Now, of course, since it's an Indiana Jones fantasy, George has to get chased by a giant boulder, and we see it chasing him past a bunch of different landmarks. It's all obvious green screen. After it chases him through Egypt and the snow and a bunch of other different places, he ends up right here in downtown Los Angeles, coming around the corner right here at 7th Place and Santa Fe. You can clearly see this building at the end of the street, which is now partially blocked by a tree, but you can still tell that it's the same building. And you can also see this building on the corner of 7th and Santa Fe, along with this utility pole. And then George finally runs out of breath and comes to a stop right here at 8th and Santa Fe, just a couple of blocks away from where we just were. And there's a couple of things here that you can see in the movie. You can see that sign there for 8th Street, although it's been relocated. You can also see this building, which had a tower on it, or some kind of a structure that was there up until just a couple of years ago. And then since then, they've built something else on top of that building. But for the most part, the building still looks the same. So it was somewhere right out here in the middle of the street where George supposedly gets run over by that big boulder. So once George snaps out of his Indiana Jones fantasy, it cuts to the place where he works with his friend Bob, Big Edna's. That was this building right here. It still looks pretty similar. They've added a patio and some glass around the front door, but for the most part, this looks like Big Edna's Burger World. Now right there is where the 3 guys would have been standing that George accidentally squirts mustard on.
Say, hey!
And behind him, across the street, you can see this brick building.
We never should have fired George Newman because he's got imagination. Well, I think the fries are just about done.
And that brings us to George's apartment, which is this building right here. It's now blocked by some trees and there's a bunch of cars parked in front of it. So it's making me feel like I'm right at home. But you can still recognize the building. It's been changed a little bit. Some of the doors and windows on the building have changed, but for the most part, the structure still matches up with what you see in the movie. Now this right here is pretty close to the first shot that we get of his apartment. George would have pulled up and parked his car right about there.
I want you to take this crowbar and just bash my head right in.
And just bash my head in. Go on, just bash my head in. Just go ahead, just hit it.
Please, just bash it right in.
George, you know I couldn't do that. You still owe me $5.
This is the window that the guy gets thrown out of, but it's now pretty much completely blocked by this tree. Now this is the window that Cooney's sticking his head out of.
Hiya, George!
And you can tell by the roof line. But again, we can't get the proper shot because this tree is blocking it. And then right over here is the window that the guy gets thrown out of.
Stupid!
So they head upstairs and George makes them their favorite snack, a Twinkie wiener sandwich. And it turns out this is also Eminem's favorite snack.
I know it's your favorite, so I made you a Twinkie wiener sandwich.
I knew you'd make it, I knew you'd make it.
Make sure you stick around to the end of this video to see my son and I try this for the very first time. George suddenly remembers that he's supposed to be going to Terry's house for dinner, and he then realizes what time it is. Now we never do see the outside, but it was at this apartment complex inside of building number 3 where they filmed the interiors of Terry's apartment. This is where George comes to dinner and he builds his mashed potato mountain. Now the closest that we get to seeing the outside of this building is later in the movie when Terry comes home and finds the flowers taped to her door. However, there is no Unit K at this apartment complex. So later, George goes to a party where his Uncle Harvey and Aunt Esther tell him that they want him to run their new UHF station. And the fun begins. So right now we're on our way to the actual U62 building, and there's 2 locations on this list that are a little questionable, and this is one of them. Now the actual U62 building, that was torn down a long time ago, but the antenna was still there and part of the parking lot and the path leading up to the building. And there was a couple of videos that came out years ago and the people were able to walk right up to the antenna and the path and everything. But from what I know, in recent years, they've made that area off limits to the public. And I heard that they were getting ready to redevelop that area. So I don't know if they've already started building something new or what the deal is, but we're about to find out. Getting off the freeway right now and not sure, but that might be the U62 antenna right in front of us. Yep, that was the antenna that we saw off the freeway. This is where U62 was. The antenna is still here. It looks like everything else is gone. There are signs saying that this is now the Department of Transportation, private property. It's closed off to the public. So it says to check in at the plant office, but I don't know where the plant office is. I don't see anybody around here, or else I would ask if we could go in there. But it looks like the antenna is the only thing that's left. So George and Terry would have entered over on this side and then traveled down a road that was somewhere right in this area. They then would have got to the parking lot, which was right about here. And then next to the large antenna is where the actual U62 building was. Over here, there were some buildings, like some greenhouses or something that you could see in the movie. Those appear to all be gone. There are some newer buildings there, but not the same ones that you see in the movie. So unfortunately, there's not a lot to see here. I'm glad the antenna is still here, but bummer that the rest of it's gone.
It's Crazy Ernie from Crazy Ernie's Used Car Emporium.
The Crazy Ernie's TV commercial was a very quick scene.
It's a giant supermarket of cars!
And although it no longer looks anything like it, that TV commercial was filmed right here at what's now the Mark Miller car dealership.
Nobody comes down and buys a car from me in the next hour. I'm gonna club this baby seal.
All right, we're heading over to the Channel 8 building, and this is the other location on the list that's kind of questionable. Those other videos that were done years back, they were able to get on the property and show the building, but I know that in recent years, the building was closed off to the public, and I very recently saw pictures of it where it had a construction fence around it and there were some signs up for a construction company. So for all I know, the building might have been torn down. I don't know if they were just remodeling it or if they were getting ready to tear it down. I'm kind of worried, but we're gonna find out here in about 2 minutes. Okay, so good news and bad news. The building is still here, but there is a gate going around it. There's a security guard inside there, so we definitely cannot go on the property, but the building is still here. It looks like it still looks the same for the most part, so not really sure why there was a construction fence around it. I don't really see what they did, but I'm glad the building's still here and it still looks the same. I'm bummed that we can't get on the property. I really wanted to try and match up some of those shots, like the stuff with the homeless guy.
Change. You got change.
You're mine. Get out of my way.
You can see it a little better from here. Right over there is the main entrance to the building, but that's also where the security guard is sitting in a golf cart. So I don't want to get too close to the building. I know someone else had come here and they got chased away. But yeah, this was it, Channel 8. Right up there, RJ Fletcher. In one of those hallways is where Stanley gets his mop taken away by the elevators.
Nope. Is this it? Nope. Is this it? Nope.
So this is the building that was used for City Hall. And then right here, they had a payphone. And this is the very spot where Pamela first meets Noodles McIntyre.
Macintosh. At your service.
We're awaiting the emergence of Mayor Thompson from his annual city budget meeting.
This is the very spot where Pamela is reporting from.
Oh yeah, here comes the mayor now. Let's go up and maybe we can get a few words out of him.
Just call me Mr. Butterfingers.
Buddy, where's the spatula?
Okay, kids, let's go.
So you never actually see the outside of this house, but this is where the Spatula City family lived. And what you do see is them getting into their station wagon, which would have been parked right here in this driveway.
There's just one place to go for all your spatula needs.
But it's such a quick scene and such a tight shot that it's really hard to tell, but this is where it was filmed. Now you might recognize this building right here behind me, Spatula City.
Spatula City. Spatula City.
This is so awesome. It looks exactly the same. I mean, obviously it doesn't say Spatula City, but the building still looks the same.
Spatula City, 7 locations. We're in the yellow pages under spatulas.
And what better way to say I love you than with the gift of a spatula?
Now the Spatula City billboard that you see in the commercial, supposedly they left that up for like a few months and people were really confused. They were trying to figure out what Spatula City was and where it was. Speaking of that billboard, let's go check it out. Now how cool is this? This is where the Spatula City billboard was.
Spatulas at a fraction of retail cost. Spatula City. Spatula City.
Now the shot's actually taken from the highway right here, so the angle's a little different, but that building right there, it's a different color now, but you can see just a little bit of that building in the shot. Spatula City, they sell spatulas.
And that's all.
Now again, you never actually see this building in the movie, but this was Terry's dental office.
Hi, Terry, it's George. Happy birthday. I love you. Mwah, 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 mwah.
And it turns out it's a real dentist building. So who knows, but one of those windows might be Terry's office. but it was definitely filmed inside of this building.
Are you tired of sloppy, cut-rate funerals? You've tried the rest. Now try the best.
So this right here is the cemetery that was used in the Plots or Us commercial. Now, for some reason, we tried to go into the cemetery, but there's 2 security guards at the front, and they told us that the cemetery is closed to the public and that we're not allowed to go in. But it was somewhere right over here in this area where they're walking in that commercial. And the way that you can tell is this fence, these blue pillars, and then also if you look right over there, there's a couple of stone pillars. Those can be seen. Now there's one grave marker that you can see that's like a planter or like a cup kind of. And I'm trying to find that, and that would tell us exactly where they're walking, but I don't think you can see it from where we are. Okay, we found the planter. It's gonna be hard to see, but it's way over there in the distance. I'll zoom in so you can get a better shot of it. But so that means right over there, probably kind of close to where that red car is, that's where they would have been walking. So we came over on the other side and you can get a little bit of a better shot. We're still on the outside of the cemetery. So they would have been walking somewhere right in that area, but the camera would have been shooting from the other direction. Like I said, you could see that parking lot, which is right over there. That's where I was just standing a minute ago. So this is the general area. So I actually have an explanation as to why the cemetery was closed. That night when we got back to our hotel, I decided to look it up and try and find out if the cemetery is always closed to the public or what the deal with that is. And it turns out archaeologists were in there digging up graves, trying to find missing bodies from the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. So this was a pretty big deal. It was all over the news. We had just heard nothing about it. But I mean, what are the odds? This happened in 1921, but by coincidence, the one summer that we come to Tulsa and try and get into that cemetery, this is going on. Wild stuff.
The Plots Are Us mortuary service. Remember, there's always plenty of free parking. And don't forget to visit our new salad bar.
So you can see it's actually the Moore Funeral Home, but this was Plots or Us. There would have been a Plots or Us sign somewhere right about here, and this is it. This is really all you see of the building. So George is not doing too good. The station is in really bad shape, and he messed things up with Terry again. So in the middle of his show, he walks out and offers it to Stanley.
How'd you like your own TV show?
Okay.
George then takes off and heads to a local bar to drown his sorrows. Now it's currently a Domino's Pizza, but this used to be a completely different building. I believe the building that was here burnt down and they then built a strip mall. But where the Domino's is, that's where the building was where they filmed those bar scenes, where George and Bob are drinking and where they first see Stanley Spadowski's clubhouse.
Back to Stanley Spadowski's clubhouse.
Now, according to Al, it was also inside of that same building where they filmed the Café Francais scenes where George forgets Terry's birthday. So Stanley Spadowski's clubhouse is a huge hit. The station is doing great now. George and Bob are doing great, but now they have to come up with some new shows.
Hey man, this is Raul Hernandez and welcome to Raul's Wild Kingdom.
Probably one of the coolest locations that I was most excited about going to. That apartment building right there, Raul's Wild Kingdom.
Coming to you live from my apartment. How about that, huh?
Right here inside of this building, actually that apartment on the top floor, that's where he taught us that turtles are nature's suction cups.
Did you see that? It sticks.
And of course, this is where he was teaching poodles how to fly.
Here we go. Get ready and...
He was actually throwing them out of that center window, and when he's looking out that window, you can see the buildings across the street. The building on the right side has a tall, thin window, and then it's a 3-story building on the left side. And here you have the building on the right side with the tall, thin windows, and then on the left side, you have the 3-story building. And it was in front of this building where he gets a new delivery of animals.
2 armadillos, 3 badgers.
Badgers? Badgers? We don't need no stinking badgers.
So things are going great now at the station, and George just has to come up with some new shows to fill up the fall schedule.
There's lots of fun coming your way this weekend on U62.
Now, you never do see the outside of the building in the movie, but this is the legendary Rose Bowl. It's no longer a bowling alley, but inside of this building, this is where they filmed Bowling for Burgers.
Next, everybody's favorite, Chef Bernie invites you to go bowling for burgers.
RJ Fletcher realizes that U62 is a threat to Channel 8 since they're #1 in the ratings. Meanwhile, Uncle Harvey's having the time of his life when he suddenly gets a call from Big Louie telling him that he has $75,000 in gambling debts and it's due by Friday. Luckily, Uncle Harvey gets a call from RJ Fletcher making him an offer that he can't refuse, and Uncle Harvey agrees to get on a plane, fly out, and sign over U62 to RJ Fletcher. Now, you don't really see it too much in the movie, but this house right behind me, this was Uncle Harvey's house. And you do see when he's walking out of the front door, you see the stone right there on the side, and you also see these steps. But what you really see is when the cab pulls up right here in the front, you can see the houses across the street and that fire hydrant. You mostly see the fire hydrant and the driveway right behind it. Now, it's pretty obvious that they did film inside the house. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any pictures online, but here's the pool that Uncle Harvey was floating around in. Tulsa International Airport. This is where RJ Fletcher comes to meet Uncle Harvey when he flies into town. RJ Fletcher would have been parked right behind the limo, which was parked right here in front of this terminal. There's a deleted scene where George goes to the bank to try and get a loan, but unfortunately, he's not eligible. Now this is the bank that was used. Right here is where the doors used to be that George comes walking out of. It's now a window, but there's still some stuff here that you can match up. So U62 decides to have a telethon to try and raise the money to save the station. And in order to do that, they have to call on all the local talent. But RJ Fletcher knows that Stanley Spadowski is U62's biggest star, so he kidnaps them to try and stop them from being able to raise the money.
Next week on U62, he's back. And this time, he's mad. Gandhi 2. No more Mr. Passive Resistance.
So just to give you an idea on how close together some of these locations are, this was the bank from the deleted scene, and then right over there, that's the alley from Gandhi 2. So thanks to Philo's hidden cameras, George is able to see that they've kidnapped Stanley, and he wastes no time springing into action to come to Stanley's rescue. Well, as much fun as we had in Tulsa, it's now time to head back to California to finish this video. So this right here behind me is the Sweetwater Movieland Ranch, which is closed to the public, but on the other side of this gate and on the other side of those horse stables, out there in the canyons, that's where they filmed the Rambo scenes for UHF. It's pretty cool to think that Weird Al was running around out here with that muscle suit on. So awesome. And of course, they raise the money just in the nick of time. They pay off Uncle Harvey's debts and they save the station, and everybody lives happily ever after. All right, as promised, we are now going to try the Twinkie wiener sandwich. I am not too excited about it. He is pretty excited about it. At first, I was really grossed out, but then I thought about it. I'm a really big fan of things that are salty and sweet at the same time, and basically that's what you got going on here. So this is a Hostess Twinkie with a veggie hot dog and then some spray cheese. Go ahead, take the first bite, my friend.
What?
Same time?
Yeah.
All right, 1, 2, 3. There's a lot going on. I'm not sure how I feel about this.
It's pretty good.
It's not awful, actually. You don't really taste the cheese. Well, he might.
No, I don't.
Oh. I was just trying to get my wife. I asked her if I saved her a little piece if she would try it. She refuses. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever had. It's kind of good in a weird way. Now, in the movie, he dunks it in milk. I couldn't go that far. I couldn't do it. Well, I had a blast making these memories and going on this journey with my family to hunt down the filming locations for UHF. But it looks like my work on this planet is done, and I now must return home. So, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Just go ahead, just hit it, just do it, just bash it in. Now, of course, since it's I can't say that. Since it... We are now going to try the Twinker